Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Big Bros podcast. My name is Ilan, and I'm joined by my lovely friend and co-host, Jeremy. How are we?
I'm well. How are you, mate?
I'm fantastic. Cold as shit, and I've been repeating that same line every
for the last few weeks now, hey?
It really is the depths of winter. It's the depths of despair. But today, we're going to be speaking about a dating topic. What do you do when they tell you they are not ready for a relationship?
Yeah, it's one that we all know. We've all been there. We've all heard it. And it's often the common excuse, the common reason that people say, maybe when they just want to be casual with you, maybe when they don't actually know what they want themselves. So we're going to dive into it. And it's one that's been highly requested as well more recently. We've been getting a lot of good feedback from you guys, especially the ladies that do listen to the show. Shout out to you guys. You're loving the dating topics from a male's perspective. So we hope this provides some further insight into what you can expect from the men out there when they do tell you this and how you should tackle the situation. Because this one, when they say they're not ready for a relationship, what does that mean? So let's break that down first. What does that mean? You're seeing someone, you're talking, maybe you've matched on Hinge, maybe you've swiped on Tinder. I'm not sure if anyone still does that. Maybe it's more so Hinge these days. But regardless, you're seeing someone and you might be talking, you might have gone on a few dates already, you might be getting to that zone where it's like 3 to 5 dates in and you're building each other up, you're getting a little bit more intimate. Maybe you've slept with each other, maybe you haven't yet, but there's that elephant in the room potentially in your minds where you're thinking, what are we? What's going on? What are we doing?
If they're telling you that they're not ready for a relationship, reframe that in your head as they're not ready for a relationship with you, because I guarantee if the perfect match walked into that door for them, they're willing to say, yeah, I'm totally ready for a relationship with you. And I think it's only natural that people, if they want to keep things casual, keep things as a situationship, you're not going to want to hurt their feelings, right? It kind of removes that little bit of tension. So I think the problem is a lot of people then get stuck in this situation where it's like, okay, they're not ready for a relationship now. So that means I need to keep seeing them and hope that they're going to end up changing their mind. And the problem is that rarely ever works. It's a bit of an insurance mark. If I tell you, Jeremy, that I'm not ready for a relationship with you, but I'm happy to continue seeing you as though we're doing all these boyfriend and girlfriend activities, we're going on these cute little dates, but then I pull out the card of like, yeah, but I'm not going to commit. That's going to leave you in a state of confusion. It's going to leave you in a state of despair. And you're ultimately going to be angry at yourself because you knew this was going to happen, but you'll also be upset at me because you'll be like, well, you told me one thing, but then you acted differently. And that's why I urge everyone, if someone tells you they're not ready for a relationship, believe them, take them at their word, because I promise you, you'll only end up being confused.
The confusion ultimately comes down to a breakdown of communication. This is another way to say that you have found yourself in a situationship. Congratulations, you have landed yourself in a situationship once again. Why does this keep happening to you, you may ask? It is because there is a breakdown of communication. So we're going to strip it back to what usually happens, right? We touched on it a couple of minutes ago in the sense that you're 3 to 5 dates in, but let's delve a little bit deeper into that.
It starts earlier. That's the thing.
It does. It starts early, even from that first or second date. Now, you might be listening and think, why do you need to speak so seriously on the first date or the second date? Why do you need to talk about the future? Why do you need to talk about what you're looking for? It doesn't need to be serious. This is the whole point. It really doesn't need to be a conversation about what your hopes and dreams are for the future, when you plan to be married with your kids and with your golden retriever and have your white picket fence. It's not that serious. That's not what we're alluding to. But it starts with coming to that first date. You've met. Maybe it's both on Hinge and just vibing and seeing where things go and just weaving it into the conversation, just generally asking the person, where are you at in your life right now? You know, are you looking for something serious? Are you looking to just be a little bit casual? And if you ask that question in a very happy-go-lucky kind of way, you don't make it so formal, you don't make it so official sounding, you're not sounding like you're interviewing them. If it's just weaved in, just, yeah, like what's going on in your life? Are you looking for something right now? Are you looking to just have a little bit of fun and see where things go? And if you just weave that in, they're going to answer back pretty honestly, I would say, at least in my experiences when I was single, it was always an honest conversation, and the stress gets taken out of it when you can just weave it in very casually like that as well. And it removes the confusion when you do come to see them again on those next couple of dates. Because if they've sat to you and said on that first or second date, yeah, look, I'm just seeing where things go. That's often a response that people will say. They'll often say, yeah, I'm just seeing where things go, and we'll go from there. Well, then at that stage that there's not really much pressure at the moment. You can go on those first few dates and just vibe and see where things go in their words. And maybe when you get to that fourth and fifth date, if you eventually get there, that's when you can maybe step it up in terms of how you ask that question, because things will develop naturally as you do see each other more often. But going back to that first date, just weave it in and don't make it sound so interviewee and so official. Just get a rough idea as to what they're talking about in the early stages from the get-go.
I'm a massive believer that you shouldn't sleep with them until you at least have an understanding of whether you two are on the same page. And that doesn't mean that you're on the same page of you're going to date each other, but perhaps you're on the same page of understanding, does this person want something long-term or do they want something more casual? Because if you want something long-term and they've given you this really vague answer and you've slept with them and you're hoping that they're going to want to develop a more long-term-esque relationship with you, but they haven't given you any indication otherwise, you've now gotten yourself involved emotionally and you've gotten yourself involved in such a way that it's very hard to kind of walk your way back. That's why I think you're right. On that first date, there's nothing wrong with just asking them in a really chilled way, what are you looking for at the moment? Are you having fun? What's happening in this stage of your life? Because if they tell you, I'm not ready for a relationship, and you are, that's great. Everyone's entitled to what they want to do. But then it is incumbent on you as an individual to then be like, okay, see out the date, be respectful. And then perhaps next day or day after, if you're really kind of convinced that you want a long-term relationship, you tell them, hey, it was lovely to meet you, had a great chat with you. And then you explain why you don't want to pursue things any further. And it's because you're on the same page there. Or rather, you're not on the same page, but you've identified that at least.
This might sound a bit controversial, but I think with that point about whether you should sleep with them before knowing their intentions with dating, I think it does differ between male and female though.
What do you mean?
Let me know whether you agree, but I think it does differ because oftentimes we see that men will happily just sleep with people regardless of what their own intentions are. They might deep down think, I don't want to get involved in something casual. I might actually be looking for something serious. But if the girl is offering to be intimate with them from the get-go, most guys seem to be saying yes to that. Guys don't seem to really take that back step and think, okay, what do I really want here? They often just see it as like as a situation where, they can have a good time with that person if they're offering it. I think girls are a lot better than guys in actually taking that back seat and saying, hey, maybe let's just hold off for now. I'm not sure if I want to do that just yet, but let's see where things go. I believe that guys don't really rationalize it in their mind to the extent that girls do. What do you reckon?
Potentially. I mean, either way, it doesn't change the fact that you probably shouldn't get involved sexually. I mean, everyone can do what they want, but it doesn't help your case if you end up sleeping with them and you've started to develop some form of feelings for them and then they tell you, yeah, nah, I was just looking for a bit of fun. Because then you've almost given up something that's quite special, depending on how much you value your kind of intimacy and so forth, to someone who really didn't want to pursue anything long term with you. And that can be quite heartbreaking. It can be, for a lot of people, it can be quite upsetting. So I don't think you should get under the sheets until you figure that stuff out. Now, I want to really emphasize, I'm not saying that you wait until you're in a long-term relationship to sleep with each other. I think it's one of those aspects where you got to figure out if you're compatible first in that department before you take things further. But you can at least investigate whether you'll get a bit of a gut instinct, right? And something I really want to preface is that with, I think, the right person, you might not need to necessarily ask them whether what we are or whether they're ready for a relationship or not. Because I think the right person, genuinely speaking, they'll tell you. They'll
show it. Actions will speak louder.
Sure. Rather, they'll show it. Their behaviors will show. They'll have commitment as well. You won't be second guessing. And that's something I've started to kind of think about more is, how stable is a relationship? And I always think about the stability of a relationship, and I have a bit of a theory that you can tell a lot about the longevity of a relationship based on the stability of how it started. So my theory is that if it's a very unstable beginning and there's
what's unstable? What would you
Okay.
define as unstable at the beginning?
a lot of discussions about what are we, a lot of kind of
But that can be good. That can be good.
No, but discussions about what are we stemming from the fact that one person has no idea. Potentially there's a lot of breadcrumbing.
Right.
Potentially the only time they see each other is for physical intimacy, and it starts out as a casual fling and then feelings get involved. Potentially one person's barely, communicating or showing varying levels of commitment. I believe that's a very unstable origin of a relationship. And usually our rose-colored glasses in that honeymoon period can really mask what we're feeling. And then that relationship might end up, the longevity of it might not be too long. And again, this is a bit of Ilan theory. I don't know if there's any studies to back that up, so I'll have to look into it. But the reason I say that is because most of the time, the marriages that end up lasting, and I'm jumping ahead, but like the long-term strong relationships, they tend to have a very kind of healthy start. They have a very stable beginning. There was a lot of understanding of what each other wanted. There was a lot of commitment shown, at least to some varying degrees. And there was an understanding, and there was good communication. So you talked about like breakdown of communication. I think a lot of the time, most of the time they were on the same page of what they wanted, and they were happy to communicate it.
Yeah, from personal experience, I can safely say that the relationship I'm in now was extremely stable from the start. There was none of that wishy-washy communication. We knew exactly where we stood at all times and where we were going with it. And that's the beauty in a good relationship, as you speak about. And I can't urge that enough to the people listening, to you guys listening, is that it all stems from communication. It is the only thing, it is the only pillar that truly matters more than any other pillar. If you keep struggling to form that relationship where you've got stability, where you know where you stand, where you can see where it's going, if you're still wishy-washy, it is your fault and their fault in terms of your communication. You might not have the balls to just ask those questions that might be a little bit uncomfortable to show them your level of self-respect and self-worth in these situations when things get a little bit wishy-washy. That's the brutal honesty, because if you do ask those questions, if you say, hey, I want something serious, what do you want? You will get an honest answer. And if you don't get an honest answer, that's when it's up to you to walk away, no matter how hard it is if feelings have developed, because imagine if they develop further. Imagine if it's another 2 weeks, 2 months, 2 years down the line, and you still find yourself in a wishy-washy situation with them with increased feelings. You will only blame yourself at the end of the day and say, I should have gotten out of this earlier when I knew that they weren't able to communicate their feelings truthfully to me.
It is not your responsibility to convince them to be in a relationship with you, but it is your responsibility to at least give them an ultimatum. Because how much do you value your time? How much do you value your self-worth? And I believe it's a massive reflection of how much you do appreciate your own kind of self and so forth. By how much time are you willing to spend with this person? Let them have what they want. Perhaps all you're seeing them for is some sort of sexual fix from their end. Perhaps all they want from you is to be intimate with you. But you want something more, and you're hoping that just by being intimate with them over a set number of days, weeks, they're going to change their mind magically. And
you're not going to change them.
It's not. And that's why I think an ultimatum is really, really important. But the thing with an ultimatum is you need to be willing to walk away. It's a negotiation table, right? You need to...
Well, it's a business deal. Being in a relationship is the biggest business deal you will make.
It's true. They say it's the biggest business decision you'll ever make in your life because of how many things it can implicate. But it's true. And I think something that I always want to reinforce to people if they ever kind of communicate about this issue is there are people in the world that will tell you straight up, I am ready for a relationship and I'm ready for a relationship with you. But you're not going to actually entertain those people until you end up identifying that your current situationship is headed down the wrong way. You're not going to give that person a chance, right? You're not actually allowing yourself the opportunity to meet someone who will choose you, which by the way is a fucking attractive quality. There is nothing more unattractive than being with someone who's hot and cold with you, who's telling you, yeah, I'm not really feeling a relationship. Because I promise you, I cannot guarantee this enough. Everyone, even if they say they're not ready for a relationship, most people, if the right person for them, they're 10 out of 10 walk in the room, they're going to be with them, right? So if someone's even considering not choosing you, it's because you're not that 10 out of 10 to them. Is that upsetting to hear? I'm sure it is, but it's the reality.
And that's why I hate the excuse that people constantly say where they might be going overseas. They might be going on exchange. I'm going away for 2 months and sorry, love, I can't commit to you. This is just the roadblock between us. There is nothing more that grinds my gears than that, because like you said, if they are the right one for you, and by right one, I'm just saying you simply like them and they like you. It is not deeper than that. You both like each other and you both are beating around the bush with your feelings because you've got this weird roadblock of going away on a holiday for a couple of months. If that is stopping you from committing to one another, then that's just a shame. And it's a shame because we know that that true love and the true relationships will make whatever it is work. We hear it all the time. It's upsetting because I feel like there are so many relationships that actually can flourish and can work, but it's just that next level of commitment that people are afraid to take. And we know that nothing worth having comes easy. Nothing good worth having comes easy. So it goes the same for relationships. It goes the same with love. You might have to make a decision that is a little bit hard for the time being. If you are going away for a month or two, it might be a little bit shit to not be with that person. Doesn't mean you shouldn't be with them through the shit, because this is probably just going to be a small roadblock in your relationship. If you do commit to each other, you will most likely experience harder things in life, much worse than just being apart from one another for 2 months because you just want to be in Ibiza and have your fun there.
Well, what if you want to have your fun because you haven't had your single hoe phase?
Why do you need to have that phase? If you like this person in this situation enough to call them your girlfriend or your boyfriend, why do you need to have that fleeting fun of sleeping around?
Because perhaps you might fear that if you don't have it, you'll regret it later down the line when you're married. You might be in your 40s or 50s and you might think, gee, I wish I had slept with more people. Now, as you can tell by my laughter, I don't actually subscribe to that belief.
Well, then you just got to communicate it.
But
be honest.
Well, I think if you communicate that, then you almost have to be ready that relationship would end. If someone was dating me and they told
be ready
me
that they walk away.
I would genuinely walk away, because why would I want to be with someone that in 10, 20, 30 years might be like to me, yeah, I'm worried that if I settle down too quickly now, I'm going to regret the fact that I didn't have a single phase in Europe. And that's fine. If that's what you truly believe, that's fine. But I don't think I'd be comfortable being in a relationship with someone who has those doubts, because I think it's natural to have doubts in a relationship, like to a certain extent. But if you're doubting that the person that you're with is not fantasizing about the fact that they skipped the single phase in Ibiza, then I don't know. I think that is it's a very relatable thing for a lot of people, because it's like, well, I'm dating my first ever boyfriend, girlfriend out of school, and I think I love them, but I also don't want to be with this person for the rest of my life because they're my first.
That's different.
I reckon it is.
That's
a
different situation.
But generally speaking, we do see it a lot. People go on exchange and they'll be
the reason why that's different is because I guess we're talking about if you don't want a relationship. That's if you already are in a relationship,
sure,
right?
But let's say you've been seeing each other. Here's an interesting question, right? Because let's say one of you are going on exchange, or you're going for like a 6-month travel. How long do you think you should be dating for until you can justify to yourself to do long distance? Because let's say you met them a month before and you hit it off. Maybe you saw each other 3-4 times. That's a bit hard to then justify to yourself, oh, I want to do long distance.
Yeah.
And it might work. And that's the thing. Everything here is a probability game, because the more you see them, the more you have the opportunity to actually cultivate some form of a relationship. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, look, I think there has to be a level of realism here. And I think, 3 to 5 dates, you probably just don't know the person enough to be able to commit to them if you are going away for 6 months. I think by that point, it's probably a bit unfair on them, especially if it's just if it's one of you going away and the other one is still here wondering, what could happen when they get back, whilst this other person is away and most likely experiencing other people. There's a level of realism that plays. But I think it's so common that we see the situation where someone is talking to someone else for a few months at least, 3 to 5 months, let's say, but they've got this exchange period planned in their mind, and that's like their holy oracle that they must be single for. I think that's the example here that we're talking about, where if you've really got that foundation, you're almost at the level where, or you might even be at the level where you could call this person your girlfriend. You would like to call this person your girlfriend, but you've got this plan away for a few months. This is the situation where I would say, unfortunate that you're not going through, because it could work, because you guys clearly do like each other, and you would absolutely find a way to make it work when you do like each other. I want to take it back now to when we were talking about being intimate too soon earlier. It's a topic that we've spoken about on previous podcasts, but I think it's one here that comes up really often when we're talking about when you should be in a relationship, and what do you say if they tell you that they don't want to be in a relationship. For the girls listening, if this guy is the right one for you, if you want to know whether this guy truly does want to be with you, you make him wait. You make him wait a little bit. Don't sleep with them after the second, third, fourth date. Let him wait 2 months if he has to, or if you want to, if you really want to be sure. Because if this guy truly does like you, he will wait. He will have no interest in exploring anyone else. And if he does, then he just doesn't like you enough. It's simple as that. Guys are simple creatures. When we like someone, we will hold out for them. We feel it deep down, and we will hold out for them.
As a follow-up question, what if that girl, let's say if we're using the guy example, what if that girl is happy to sleep with someone they don't view as a long-term relationship material? So like maybe they'll be on a first date with someone, quickly realize he's hot, but I'm not going to date them, so I'm happy to sleep with them early on. Mm-hmm. Would you apply the same logic there? Should that person sleep with him if she's ruled out in her head that he's not a long-term relationship material?
Should he sleep with her?
Or should she?
Should she sleep with him?
Yeah, because you're saying make the ones who are worth it wait, whereas make the ones who aren't worth it.
Or not necessarily if they're worth it, but if
worth it for a long-term relationship.
Well, if you're just dating someone, if you're dating a guy, you've gone on a few dates, and you want to test whether he's in it for the right reasons, because you know that you are in it for the right reasons. You do want to be serious. Make him wait.
I get all that, and I think that's not a bad thing to do. I'm just curious what your opinion is, because the thing is, I'll explain where the question's coming from. Let's say you are that guy who's happy to wait, but then you find out some way that she is more than happy to give up she's more than happy to be sexual with one guy she met on one night, and realized, yeah, he's hot, but he's not long-term relationship. How would that make you feel as that guy?
Well, it'd make you feel shit if you like this person more than just some casual fun.
Because she's tried to make something special. She's tried to, intimacy, from what I believe in. He probably thought like, okay, being intimate was quite special to her. That's why she reserved it for me. But she wasn't willing to reserve the same timeline for someone else. So she's reserving something that's special to her for someone she deems as a long-term relationship candidate, but she doesn't have the same standard for Chad, who's got the rippling six-pack abs and isn't relationship material. So she sleeps with someone way quicker than the other one.
I think it's just a breakdown of communication there. It's if you're not communicating what your intentions are, it's a breakdown there of that, and that can just lead to toxicity in the way in which you guys do communicate.
But my point more so is like, it's a standard. Like, what standard do you hold? And I'd say I apply the same thing for men as well, right? Like, this is more of my personal belief, but I think if you're intimate with someone, understand that it carries multiple risks, right? Obviously, you've got the obvious health risks, but you also have the emotional risks. And man, getting emotionally attached to someone and they don't want to have any part of or have any involvement in your life after sleeping with you, like that's a risk that you have to kind of carry if you're willing to sleep with someone. Now you might say, like, I don't get attached, and what if I want to have that fun? Do what you want. Your life.
Do it, but communicate it.
And that's the same thing. We speak a lot about being intentional, right? You can be intentional and say, I want something casual. That's like showing intent.
Yes.
But you can also say, I want something serious. That's also showing intent. And I think there's a way, and maybe we should do an episode on this, is where we actually communicate. What are some practical things you can say on those first dates where you can figure out whether the person you're speaking with or chatting to is on the same stage of life as you and they're looking for the same thing as you? Because I think that's a really difficult thing. I think most people fall away with communication because it's a scary thing. It's so bloody hard.
Well, you say we could make an episode about that and run through some things you could say, but I'm actually not sure if it's that deep. I think it goes back to what we spoke about at the start, where it's just simply saying, what are you looking for right now?
Yeah,
are you looking for something serious? Are you looking for fun? If you're looking for fun and I'm looking for fun, well, we can be a bit fun together and that's great. But if you're looking for something serious and I know that I'm looking for just a bit of fun, then this might not work and most likely won't, because there will be feelings involved and that will cause us to both be in strife.
What do you say to someone who is trying to change that person, to try and convince them to be in a relationship with them?
You can't change them. You know, you said it earlier so well. You can't change that person. And if you are trying to change that person, well, you honestly showing to them that you're honestly being puppeteered by them in a way as well. You might be showing that you lack a little bit of self-esteem. And I say that with caution because I know that sounds controversial, but if you really are holding on to trying to convince someone to be with you, your self-esteem, rightly so, will be questioned, because why the hell would you want to be with someone that doesn't want to be with you? They are telling you they don't want to be with you. They do not want a relationship. They are not ready for a relationship. If they did, like you said, they would say, I'm here and I'm here to be in one with you. If they're not verbalizing that, they don't want to be with you. So why the hell would you try to change them? It's flogging a dead horse.
And yeah, you give them that ultimatum. It's really a yes or a no. Are we dating exclusively? Are we dating towards something more? Or is this just a bit of fun?
Yeah.
And if they tell you it's just a bit of fun, out the door you go.
If that's not what you want. If you want a bit of fun as well, and they just want fun, at least you guys have communicated that. You might land yourselves in a sticky situation, and most likely you will. We've spoken about situationships here before, but at least you have both covered each other's bases in communicating your intentions of just being fun initially. But with the whole adage of them saying they aren't ready for a relationship, it's probably the biggest shield that someone can throw up in front of you. If you have been dating for X amount of time and they just say to you then, I'm not ready for a relationship, it is the biggest shield, and you actually cannot walk through that and break that, nor should you try.
No, you can't. On that note, guys, send this to someone who's in that sticky situationship, like a real sticky turd where they come to you and they say, man, this guy, this girl, they're doing my head in, they're breadcrumbing me.
They're telling me that they're not ready, but they've been sleeping with me and they've been taking me out on dates. What do I do?
But they tell me they're not ready. They're not, because they were really badly burned in a relationship 2 years ago and they still haven't overcome it.
It's not your problem.
It's not. That is such a thing to emphasize. It is not your problem. And the only thing you should be doing is picking someone as much as you pick them. And that's kind of our closing thoughts. We hope you guys enjoy and see you next week.
Bye-bye.